So let's go back to my high school age. Okay, I was running cross country because I got beat up so bad in football in 8th grade. I had so many concussions. I said, you know what, this is not for me. And so I decided, Watertown was having a great wrestling program with Marv Sherrill, and I wanted to make the wrestling team. So I went out for cross country to make the wrestling team to help me, get in shape for wrestling. After all, I wrestled at 95 pounds. It's a big heavyweight. Well, what happened was I found out I was a good runner. I was an okay runner now, but I was slow as a snail. I mean, I was slow, and the only event that I could make a track was the 2 mile. I wasn't good enough for the 800, the 400, or the mile. But my coach Godfrey, he decided, you know what, we're going to, Drake Teacher was one of my teammates, and Drake was real talented. And so Drake and Barry Carpenter, Coach Godfrey, and I would run 4 miles every morning. And I would start out, and I would pick up Drake, and then we'd go pick up Barry, and then we'd go pick up Coach, and then we'd head back to my place. And it was a 4-mile loop. And I did that for 2 years. And I wrestled, and it was okay, but I realized that the guys in my weight classes, they were always in the state meet, state championship, state wrestling championship. So I would never, ever be varsity wrestler. So I said, you know what I'm going to do? I'm just going to concentrate for track for 1 year. And so I did that. And my times improved. As a freshman, I ran 5:15, and then as a sophomore, I ran 4:45, so I got better. And then as a sophomore, I was starting to run low 4:20s. But Jeff Schemmel in Madison, he was running 4:17. And before the state meet, Jeff has a press conference. Yeah, I mean, that's pretty cocky to have a press conference before the state meet and tell everyone, I'm going to break 4:10 in the mile. And it was big news. And I said to Drake, he can't do that. There's no way Jeff Schemmel can run 4:10. So I said to myself, okay, what's the best I can do? You know what? I think I can do 4:16. If I run a perfect race with even laps, I can run 4:16. And so what I did was I visualized the perfect race. Okay? The gun would go off. Schemmel would take off. He'd be running his 62.5. And then I'd be, 2.5 seconds back. Drake and I would be 63, 64. That'd be perfect, right? Then Schemmel, he'd be about 205 at the 880. And we'd be back there 208. So we'd be about three seconds behind. Okay, at the 3/4 mark, we'd be 3:10. And he'd be slowing down. That's what I figured. He'd be slowing down. And I'd be getting closer. And at 3:12, he'd be in eyesight. And then I would pass him on the last backstretch and win the state meet in 64 seconds, or in 4:16. Now, you want to hear what really happened? That's what I visualized. Okay, anyone here do visualization? Anyone here visualize the perfect performance? Okay, so you know what I'm talking about. It will help your game. It will help your game, and I hope you do that tonight, because you know this course tomorrow, right? Very well. So from when the gun, think about when the gun goes off, what you've got to do to run the perfect performance. Now here's what happened. The gun went off in the race, and Schemmel took off. Unbelievable. Listen to the splits. Here's Jeff. 59, 60. he went by. 61, 62. And here we are, 63, 64. Teetsy and I are right on. Then, Jeff keeps going. He's running hard. Coming around the next curve. Okay, at the 880. 201, 202. Wow. 202. Okay? And here's Drake and I. 207, 208. We are now 6 seconds behind Jeff Schemmel. He looks like he's way ahead. I think, oh my gosh, he's trying to break 4 minutes. He's not going for 4:10. Then, next lap comes around. Unbelievable. Jeff is at 303, 304. We're way back there. We're way back there. 310, 311, 312. We're right on pace. And then I see him coming back. And I just take off. It's like, I know I wasn't going any faster, but I put in the effort, the mental effort, to kind of really pick it up. So I was trying to run like a 60-second lap, but because of my pace, yeah, I was running 64. And so I passed him before the start of the straightaway, and I said, okay, I've got it. And when I came across the finish line, it was 4:15, 4:16, and a few seconds behind me was Greg Teetsy, my teammate. So that is how I decided then that my goal was, number 1, to be a sub-4-minute miler, number 2, to be on the USA track team. I was determined. Nothing was going to stop me from doing that. So I set my goals high. I set them real high. And Drake and Barry Carpenter and Paul Stormo, we decided, you know what? We're not just going for the state record. We want to be one of the best relay teams in the nation. And we got to do that. The next year, when I raced against Jeff at the in Yankton, I strategically thought, okay, now I visualized again. Now, how am I going to be Jeff Schemmel? Because he's a great runner. And I said, you know what? I'm waiting for the last 300, and then I'm going to explode, get about a 20-yard lead on him, and defeat him. So, what happened? We ran a strategically slow race. We were like 2:14 at the 880, and the next lap was slow. But my last lap in that race, I ran in 57 seconds and ran 4:11. So it was a great race. That qualified me to run in the national championship in Chicago, where I finished second place. Now, that was high school. Let's move forward to my college running at Indiana University. I ran okay cross country. I was 9th place in the Big Ten my freshman year. In my freshman year, I got to run against a gentleman called Steve Prefontaine. Okay? Anybody know about Pre? Okay. Here's the thing about Pre. I was in the race, and it was Steve Prefontaine and Nick Rose. And I said, well, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to stay up with these guys. I'm a freshman, right? You know, so I'm going to stay up with these guys, you know, within 10 or 20 yards, you know, and then the last part, I'll kick them. Okay, that was the plan. Well, here's what happened. The gun went off. This is a course in Tennessee that is slightly uphill, And we're at the 880 mark, and I'm whistling to the splits. I'm not too far. I'm, about 20 yards behind. I thought, okay, I'm in good shape. I'm whistling to the splits. 201, 202, and I'm thinking, oh my gosh, we're in trouble. We got 5.5 miles to go. And so I said, see you later, guys. And they took off, and those two really ran a race. And Steve Prefontaine was a great athlete, and I respected him my entire career. In fact, it was then moving forward in 1975. So remember when I set the goal? I was a junior, right? I ran 4:16. Well, when you're that age, I thought, well, for sure I'll break 4 minutes when I'm a freshman, right? Right? Well, so it took me 6 years later, 40 years ago, I broke 4 minutes a mile against Nick Rose. And what Nick did was he played a good chess game, and he had a rabbit. And his rabbit went out in 57 seconds. And I said, oh my gosh, that's way too fast. I'm just a 4 minute miler, and I can't stay up with him. So I let him and Nick take off. And so at the next lap, they were 1:57, and I'm back here at 2 minutes, so I'm 30 yards behind. Well, then that rabbit stepped off the track, and boy, was I mad. But Nick started coming back, and I tell you, I just missed him, beating him by a distance from me and you. But both of us broke 4 minutes for the first time. So I was the first sub-4 minute miler at Indiana University. Later that year, I ran a dozen sub-4 minute miles and was the Big Ten champion. And then in the national championship, I finished 4th place for All-American, but I was the second American because 2 of the athletes in front of me were from foreign countries. Okay, Eamon Coughlin being one of them. And so I decided, after the national championship, I decided to go to summer school. And I'm riding my bike, and I get home, and there's a note on my apartment door, and it says, "Congratulations, Steve. You have made the USA track team. You are to go to the Indianapolis airport tomorrow to fly to Russia." To fly to Russia. And so I called up my professors, and I said, "Hey, Doc, you know what? Listen, I'm going to be gone for 2 weeks. I'm going to miss 2 weeks of summer school. I've got to run for our country." And they said, "Oh, fine, but you got to take the test when you get back." And so I said, that's fine. So I went up to the Indianapolis airport, and I go up to the counter, and I said, "My name is Steve Heidenreich, and I'm supposed to fly to Russia." Well, they said, "Well, yes, Mr. Heidenreich." And they picked up this big bag, big blue bag with USA on it, and said, "Here's your uniform and equipment. We've been waiting for you. Here's your ticket. Today you're flying to New York, and then you'll fly to Europe soon afterwards." So I flew to New York, and the next day I had to go to this building to get my passport. Okay? Right. So I go up to the counter, and I pull out my wallet and show them my driver's license. I said, "My name is Steve Heidenreich, and I'm supposed to go to Russia." "Oh, yes, Mr. Heidenreich. Stand over here. We need to take your picture. Where you been?" They take a picture. I get a passport and a visa, just like that. When your country wants you to go somewhere, they make things happen. So the next day, we fly to Cologne, Germany, and then to West Berlin. Well, Russia, the deal with Russia was they were going to fly us from East Berlin to Moscow. So we got to go through the Berlin Wall. Okay? And so if you know your history, they inspected everything. They opened up our luggage. "Okay, Heidenreich, 1, 2, you got 2 blue jeans. You're coming out with 2 blue jeans. Now I said, yes, sir. Okay, you got 1 cologne. You're coming out with 1 cologne. Yes, sir. And they inspected every bag of every athlete on the USA team. It took inventory. Then we sat on the airline, on the airport, on the plane. Because in Russia, they're not a capitalistic country. And so what do? Well, we don't take off until we sell all the seats. So we sat on the plane for hours. And finally, I think the U.S. coaches bought the tickets, and we got to take off and flew to Moscow, and then we flew to Kiev, and then 4 hours later, we raced. And you're going to watch that race right now.
To non-score. Pretty girl here in Kiev looking on, and they're off. The 2 U.S. runners, Kenny Popejoy and Steve Heidenreich, very similar backgrounds in that both have captured Big Ten championships. Right now, Popejoy, who was a titleist out of Illinois, is running 3rd. Heidenreich, who just this last summer won the title while representing Indiana, has fallen back into 5th place. Very interesting story about Heidenreich, and I think it represents the problems that our track team has encountered just getting here for this meet. Heidenreich arrived at 3:30 in the morning. He got 4 hours sleep, and he is out here trying to compete at 1,500 meters. It was 10 days ago that Steve decided he was going to give up concentrating on the 1,500 meters, and instead he would run cross-country competition for Indiana. Well, of course, when the call came from the AAU saying we need someone to go over to the Soviet Union to represent the country, Steve Heidenreich said, I'll be there. And here he is with Kenny Popejoy right now, and he is right behind Popejoy. The 2 U.S. runners are running 3rd and 4th in this competition behind the 2 Soviets. Anisim, Piotr Anisim, is the runner who is on the lead. Mamontov, and Anatoly is his first name, is in 2nd place. So Anisim has the lead. The split at 400 meters was 60.2. Records, well, for the world, 3:32.2, and of course that is Bai of Tanzania. The U.S. record 3:33.1, and as far as the meet is concerned, it is 3:39.2. And it was a couple of years ago in Minsk when Waddle and LaQuarrie turned in a dramatic 1-2 punch for the United States. That vaulted the American men back into the competition, and they remained there for the following day. Anisim now and Mamontov trading away at the lead as they did in the 10,000 meters and also the longer competition. That's to help bust the wind. Let your teammate go out in front and run into it, and Popejoy has decided he wants to go out after Mamontov, and he does right now. Heidenreich is staying back. He is in 4th place. Popejoy, one of many runners who runs for Ted Hayden at the University of Chicago. As far as track and field in the Midwest is concerned, it is by far the most proficient organization. Unfortunately, they don't have their star, Rick Woolhooter, here for this competition, but he will be joining the United States team and Ted Hayden, who is its coach, for that upcoming meet down in Durham. That's another competition you will see on the CBS Sports Spectacular. Now it is Popejoy running 2nd. Mamontov is on the lead. Anisim is running 3rd. Heidenreich is about to give up 4th place to the non-score, Mikhail Yulimov, who tries to slide past on the inside. Again in this competition, as far as the men's events are concerned, 5 points for 1st and 3 for 2nd, 2 for 3rd, and 1 for 4th as they hit the gun lap. Heidenreich, the young man with only 5 hours sleep, has pulled up on Popejoy's right. He's going to go out after Mamontov. A tremendous performance here by Steve Heidenreich. Popejoy is right there with him. Mamontov is on the lead. Yulimov, the non-scorer, moving hard on the outside. Now it is Steve Heidenreich. Can he keep it up? Can he hold this lead? He shouldn't worry about that non-scorer if he goes past him. He must not concern himself with Yulimov. Steve Heidenreich with one of the most courageous performances we've seen so far, coming off that 24-hour trip. Here he comes. Can he hold on the lead? Popejoy comes out with him. The United States is about to turn in a 1-2 in a 1,500. Popejoy passes up Heidenreich. Don't worry about that non-score, Steve. Get in there and get 2nd. Popejoy will be the winner as he comes across, and officially Steve Heidenreich is 2nd. So for the United States, they have picked up 8 points. A brilliant performance by Kenny Popejoy and Steve Heidenreich. You can't say enough about those 2 athletes.
Here are the official results of that 1500. Popejoy 342.6, Heidenreich 343.6, and in third, Mamontov 343.7, fourth position, Anisim 344 and 2/10.
That was a great race. That was a great race. I gave it my best. I got beat because my last lap was only 55 seconds. My teammate ran a little smarter, ran a little faster. But that helped us compete against the Russians. The next weekend, we got to go to Czechoslovakia. Oh, I've got to tell you a story. The next day, Ken Popejoy and I, we're going to go to the department store and we're going to go shopping. So we're in Kiev, and I start walking across the street. And all of a sudden, these officers are blowing whistles at me. And see, in Russia, you don't cut across the street. You go underneath the street. Well, I didn't know that. And I almost got myself thrown in jail. But anyway, we made it to the department store, and we were kind of looking around, and we saw these cool fur hats. They were awesome. You know, really nice, dark fur. And I thought, oh man, this is great. So here we are, these two Yankee athletes, right? And we're trying on these hats, and we're looking good, and we're thinking we're really cool, you know. And we just realized that everyone in the department stores were laughing at us because these male American athletes are trying on ladies' hats in the ladies section of the department store. So anyway, thank goodness a young Russian boy who spoke English came up to us and took us aside and said, "Hey guys, you guys are trying on girls' hats." And so that was kind of fun. So the next weekend we went to Prague, Czechoslovakia, and Ken and I decided, well, you know what? We know that the Europeans like to go out hard. Okay? They always like to go out hard, so we're going to stay back, and then we're going to outkick them. Well, let me tell you how the story went. The gun went off, and they did take off. They went off really fast. And listen to these splits, okay? They're coming by. 52, 53, 54, 55. Ken and I are 55 seconds, right? That's a 340 mile. We're in last place. I thought, oh man, we're gonna hurt. Someone's gonna hurt. So I just tried to kind of get myself to just relax. In other words, I used my brain to say, okay, just tell the whole body, you gotta relax, you gotta stay relaxed. And so I hung in there. Next lap, we'll listen to splits. There. 153, 154, 155. We're 155. That is a 350 mile. We're in the last place. Well, fortunately, the third lap, it did slow down. And the fourth lap at the 300 mark, just like we agreed upon, we started passing. And we started kicking hard. And at 150 meters to go, we were full speed. And it was a photo finish. And all 12 runners finished between me and the wall. And I was second. And Ken was first. And there I ran 3:38 for 1,500 meters. And that was, I didn't know it then, but that would be the best race that I would ever run. A month later, I got to run in the USA Africa meet in Cleveland. And I decided, you know what I'm going to do on this one? I'm going to let the Kenyans lead till the very, very last second. And then I'm just going to explode, get a lead, and beat them. Okay? That was the plan. That's what I visualized. Well, here's what actually happened. What actually happened is the pace was real slow. Real slow meaning 61 seconds at the first 400. 2:02, 3:03. And I thought, oh man, this is coming right into my game. And so I just waited patiently. And then at about 150 meters to go, I exploded. Got a 20-yard lead on them, and I defeated the Kenyans in the mile because my last split, 54 seconds. So I took a victory lap, and everyone cheered. It was a great race. Then at the in Rome at the World Championship, I finished second to Thomas Westinghager from Germany. It was a good race. He just beat me. It's, fair race, but it was a good experience. Moving up into the indoor season, I was having a good year. I ran 4 flat, 4.000.0 mile indoors. And I don't know, Rod, how fast would that be equivalent outdoors?
How big was the track?
220.
Flat, no bank?
220 flat, no bank.
We're getting like 3 or 4 seconds? So like
About 3:56?
Yeah.
About 3:56 miles. So, you know what? I was in good shape. I was in good shape to make the Olympic team. Okay? Now, in the national championship, I was running in the finals, and I was just about to go around the curve, the last curve, to win the NCAA championship in Cobo Hall in Detroit, Michigan. But before I got around, someone pushed me off the track. And I went from first to last. Okay? Now, so that brings me to, I was getting ready to go to spring break. We were going to go to spring break and training. And normally I went out running at night. And so I was putting on my USA uniform on. I was facing traffic, running on the left-hand side. I was starting to go up a hill, and a car came over from the right-hand side, came over to the left, and hit me from behind. And I flew over the car, and my head crashed against the concrete, and my skull split. My jaw broke. And it was on the road, whimpering. And fortunately, a graduate student had served in the Army. You know what he did? He was an EMT. And so he's having flashbacks. He's thinking he's in a helicopter and I'm a soldier in a rice paddy, and he's got to go come to my rescue. And so he stops his car, he grabs his winter jacket, he runs to me, treats me for shock, waves down another car, and says, go up to the hotel 2 blocks away, call 911. This soldier has been seriously injured. I immediately went to the hospital. Dr. Rack, my neurosurgeon, comes in, and I grab him by the shirt, and I said, help me, please help me. And then I went out. I went really out for 2 weeks. Dr. Rack did surgery on my brain. He removed this part of my skull so the brain would swell. He removed the blood clots on the surface of the brain, and he tied the bleeding veins in the brain. And he came to my parents. He said, people injured like Stephen will never be exactly the same. He has a 5% chance to live. If he lives, he'll probably be a vegetable. We cannot expect him to go to college. We cannot expect him to compete with him. That's what, statistically, that's what I was up against. Well, fortunately, I woke up 2 weeks later, and I was different. I was quite different. Because when I woke up, I was the mental age of a toddler, of a 2-year-old, and a 22-year-old body. and I had to grow up again. Fortunately, my mom was a special ed teaching assistant, and she quit her job, and a week later I went back to Watertown to grow up again. And Mom and I would go for walks, and I'd point to things. Hey Mom, what's that? That's a tree. Mom, what's that big machine over there, that metal thing? That's a car. Mom, what's that over there, that big tall thing? That's a lamp. And that's how I grew up again. Now, but here's where the miracle comes in. People were praying for me all around the world. And my brain is starting to heal. And it's rewiring. Yeah, I've got permanent brain damage here. But my brain is rewiring. And so I am learning mental years in weeks. So I left the hospital in April as a toddler. And by August, I'm a teenager again. Okay, yeah, I'm 13 years old. Yeah, I said, all right, good, I know it all again. Because you know, when I was in junior high and high school, when I got to 13 and 14, I said, man, this is great. You know, I know more than my parents do. I know I do. I mean, they're old and all that stuff. Because you know, after you're 21, it's all downhill, right? So I decided at the mental age of 13 to go back to Indiana University and finish my college degree. Now, what's wrong with that? Well, it's a challenge. It would be a challenge, wouldn't it, right? So I go to IU, and I'm there the first 2 weeks. I'm taking the senior courses for a finance major, and I realized, oh my gosh, I'm in trouble. I've got to learn all this vocabulary. Accounting, economics, statistics. I don't know it, because I'm only 13. So I called Dr. Rack up. I said, Dr. Rack, hey, this is Steve Heidenrich. I don't know if I could, I don't know if I can do this. This is a whole lot harder than I thought I could do, than I expected. So he says, okay, Steve, I want you to go see Dr. Rose. Dr. Rose is a school psychologist at Indiana University. And I go see Dr. Rose, and he gives me a verbal IQ test. Afterwards, he's very honest with me. He looks me in the eye, and he says, Stephen, this is going to be hard. You are going to suffer. This is going to be difficult. It will be the hardest thing that you have to do ever. But you can do it. You can do it, and that's all I need. He said, I can do it. And what I did is I said, okay, I'm going to use all the things that I use in athletics, and I'm going to use it to academics. Tell me, what are some of the great things that the Olympians use? What are the traits and characteristics that the great athletes use to be successful? Help me here. Give me one.
Visualize.
Visualize. Okay, give me another one.
Confidence.
Confidence. Okay, what else? What? Competitive. Good. What else? Driven. What else do you do to be great? Practice. You practice hard, don't you? Yeah, what else? Yeah, that's exactly it. And you've got to have persistence. You've got to have a passion. And so my new passion was academics. And I worked like a madman. I would do my homework not once, not twice, but 3 times. I did my homework before the lecture, after the lecture, and before the test. Do you have people who do tutoring here for the athletes? Do you guys go to those tutors? I went to all those tutors. Every day I would go see the Indiana University tutors that they had for the athletes. And then once a week, at least once a week, I would see my professors. Okay? Permanent brain damage. Right? I finished that fall semester with my best grade point average ever, 3.55. yes, I have permanent brain damage, but I'm not going to let it stop me. I was determined I was going to graduate. Now, at the same time, do you think I quit running? No. In fact, I truly believe that the exercise of doing my yoga and my running and training, because I worked out with the IU team. I practiced with the IU, and that was the way I could. It helped me relax. It helped took the pressure off. And it also helped my brain because of the movement and the confidence building from doing that. So the next spring I graduated, and then 13 months later I got to run a mile. I got to compete. And I finished 4th place with a mile of 4:22. And then after that, I kept improving and tried to train for the 1980 Olympics. A year later, anyone here want to go to graduate school or been in graduate school? Right, you want to go to graduate school? Do you have to take some kind of test? Right, so I had to take the GMAT, the Graduate Management Aptitude Test. And I took it, and the score was 800. Well, my score was 400. And at Indiana University, at their business school, if you don't have a 650, they don't even look at you. But the dean brought me in and said, oh, Stephen, you know what? Your test scores are terrible. I shouldn't even look at you. But you know, the year after your accident, you showed me you can perform. So I'm going to make you one deal. Here's the deal. You're into the IU MBA program, but if you get one grade below a B, you're out. No questions asked. I said, you know what, Dean? I will take you up on that deal. And then I worked so hard that I finished that first semester with a 3.9. And 3 years later, what I did, one of the things I did to be successful at the graduate level is I would cut the course load in half. So instead of taking 12 hours, I took 6 hours. And then I'd go to summer school. So I did not finish like everyone else in 2 years. Yeah, it took me 3 years. But I graduated with a 3.6. And who cares? You know, who cares? With permanent brain damage. So, again, if you use the traits and characteristics that the Olympians use towards whatever you want to do. Who wants to get good grades here at SDSU? All right, Coach, I'm counting them. Their hands are kind of high, but they're going to get good. And just think, if you worked as hard in your schoolwork as you do in your practice, would you get good grades? Would your grades be good? Absolutely. Absolutely. You'd be very successful. So, anyway, it's really been a pleasure sharing my experience with you. Does anyone have any questions that I can answer? I think we've got some time.
Absolutely.
No questions? Yes, sir.
Why did you go to Indiana?
Well, you know what? Good question. I got recruited by University of Minnesota, University of Missouri, University of Nebraska, South Dakota State University, LSU, Villanova, and IU. And Charlie Baker was the assistant coach, but Charlie Baker coached an athlete named Lee Evans. Anyone heard of Lee Evans? Okay, us older guys have. Lee Evans was gold medalist in the 1968 Olympics, right? And he anchored our relay team, the 4x440 relay team, to a gold medal also. So he was a gold medalist. So he recruited me, and I just felt Indiana was kind of going to be the best fit for me. Now, the 4 years that I was at Indiana competing for Indiana University, we were the Big Ten champions, Big Ten team champions 7 times. So I think I chose well. My freshman year, we were second in cross country. My sophomore year, we were first. We were the indoor Big Ten champions 3 years and the outdoor Big Ten champions 3 years. And so it was a good fit for me. Did that answer your question?
Yep.
Okay.
Back to high school.
Yeah.
How many years did your relay records hold up?
Well, I have no idea. But I know that the 4x880 lasted quite a while. I think it was 32 years in the Drake relays that it lasted, and then it finally got broke. So that was a pretty long time. Coach?
What's your relationship with Jeff Schemmel today?
Well, you know what? Jeff Schemmel and I are Facebook friends.
You're basically blood brothers.
Yeah. And you know what? Here's what's interesting, because my sophomore year, and then in 1975, here, Jeff and I, we're on in the NCAA, and we're in the finals of the mile run. And so here's 2 South Dakota boys in the finals, and we just, shook our hands and said, here we are. 2 good old South Dakota boys in the big show going for it. And my sophomore year, I finished 6th. And then my 1975, I finished 4th. And Jeff didn't place, but he had a great career at Kansas State. In fact, he broke 4 minutes in the mile before I did. But then in 1975, I got to run at Kansas State in a mile run against him, and that record still stands today. I think it's 3:58. And it's still the track record at Kansas State. So, good question, Coach. Yes, sir.
Sir, you got to be coached by 2 great coaches, Coach Godfrey and Coach Sam Bell. What were the differences between Coach Godfrey in the high school level and then going to college and then competing at another level? What did they teach you that you either used both in athletics but also later in life?
Well, you know what? Coach Godfrey coached me the first 2 years. And what he did was just kind of help us getting started. Like, he was doing things like, you know what, if we train, he convinced us if we train twice a day, we'll get better and we'll be more competitive. And so we bought into it. And so, like I said, I'd go pick up Drake, and then we'd go pick up our other teammate, and then we finally pick up Coach, and we had a 4-mile loop we did every day. And so that was kind of building our base, building our endurance. And really it was those first 2 years where I built my endurance. And then after every race, I would go tell Coach Godfrey how I could do better. And then he said to me, he was very honest, he said, Steve, I don't want you talking about how you can be better. I want you to talk with your feet. And I said, yes, sir. And I did that. And then he also said to me, and I took this seriously, is that if you miss a day of practice, are you ever going to make up that day of practice in your life? No, you don't. And while you decide not to practice, is your competition going to practice? You bet they are. They're practicing. They're practicing hard too, because they want to be the best. So that's what I learned from Coach Godfrey. From Coach Bell, you know what I learned from him is our training was so rigorous. And what I had to learn the hard way was to have a recovery day. To have a recovery day after a hard workout. Because, I was such a competitive person. I wanted to compete every day. You know, you can't do that. If coach says he wants you to have an easy run, you listen to him. You have an easy run. You do what he says because he knows. He's been there. And if I'd have listened to coach more, I probably wouldn't have had so many injuries. But what I liked about Coach Bell is he was very positive because, you know, he was always talking about me. You're going to be in the Olympics. You're going to be in the Olympics. You're one of the best in the world. He compared me to Dave Waddle. He compared me to Steve Heidenrich. And I tried to meet those standards.